The man, the myth, the legend, the great Yakub. In all of his glory, his tale has stood for over 100 years. He created me and all other white people as a young, imaginative scientist. His name forces laughter whenever I'm scrolling Instagram Reels and I see his face. But how did Yakub come to be? This is the tale of Yakub the scientist, the black supremacist organization created by a Pakistani man, and my quest to find the Nation of Islam in Detroit, Michigan. The original tale of Yakub comes from the cult or religious organization known as the Nation of Islam. We will delve into the history of this group later as I explore different religious buildings to the group, but this is their creation story. The Nation of Islam believes that in the beginning there was nothing but darkness. Then, the first Allah willed himself into existence. He created his form, that of a black man, to represent the blackness from which he had emerged. The first Allah, meaning God, then created the sun and the planets to fill this blackness. He then created fellow black gods. They organized together as rulers on Earth and on Mars. The 12 lesser and 12 greater Allahs all rotated turns ruling the Earth. Humanity became the first Allah's creation. He created them in his image and divided them up into 13 different tribes. The original black race, otherwise known as the Asiatic race, were known as the God Scientists. Then, 66 trillion years ago, one of these scientists went rogue. He tried to destroy the Earth with explosives, blasting a chunk of it off and forming the moon. One tribe was left stranded on the moon, where they all later died due to lack of water. The most successful of the 12 remaining tribe was the tribe of Shabazz. They settled near the Nile River in Egypt and around Mecca. During their migration, the Asiatic race developed Afro-textured hair. The other tribes flourished in different regions of Asia. The Nation of Islam teaches that, in fact, Africa is not its own continent, rather it's part of the larger continent of Asia. They also teach that every person who is not of European descent are in fact black. This includes Asians, Native Americans, Indians, etc. One important thing you need to know when we get to the story of Yakub is that the nation also teaches that these people are allied against white people. These original people were Muslims by nature, and they created heretical spin-offs such as Hinduism. Those who did not follow Islamic law were exiled to North America, where they became America's native population. But then, 6,000 years ago, a mad scientist was born. Yakub was born a short distance outside of the city of Mecca to the tribe of Shabazz. The great Yakub was given the name Yakub, meaning big head, due to, well, his big head, and his arrogance. The young Yakub was a super genius, however, but he was often discontent with life. At the age of 6, he discovered the laws of repulsion and attraction by playing with magnets. He connected how magnets worked to how people work. The unlike would attract and manipulate the like people. As Yakub matured, he graduated from school at 18, learning everything Mecca had to teach him. He was even regarded as a successful scientist by his fellow countrymen. As the young Yakub started to explore the world, he discovered that the original black race actually had 2 germs. One germ was the dominant black germ, the other being the recessive brown germ. He believed that he could separate them by grafting and turning the brown germ into the white germ. Grafting is basically breeding people together, aka eugenics. He knew that these new people, by using tricks and lies, could rule the original black man and destroy them. He gained a new following in Mecca due to his discoveries, but attracted a lot of trouble of his own. He was exiled to, and I'm like legit not making this up, the island of Pelin. They went to the island of my last name and the namesake of my YouTube channel. God bless. Anyways, on modern day Patmos, the great Yakub and his 59,999 followers worked on his plan. His great plan included subscribing and liking my YouTube video to show your support to the great Yakub. Only real Yakub followers actually follow through, so please do. Anyways, for real though, well, not for real, but in a way for real. Yakub invented Christianity on the island of Patmos to enslave his black followers and make them forget about their real history. On Patmos, he started to breed out the blackness of his followers by grafting. Anybody who was too dark for Yakub was murdered at birth. Yakub passed his knowledge down to his followers, but unfortunately died at 150 years old. But after 600 years, his followers eventually created the white race, and also created Native Americans, Asians, and Indians. However, it was not all sunshine and rainbows when the whites were created. According to the Nation of Islam, the white race is intrinsically evil and prone to violence. One of the leaders, Elijah Muhammad, has referred to the white race as the devil. Following their creation, the whites traveled to Europe in order to expand. In Europe, they engaged in bestiality, creating monkeys and apes apparently. The ruling Allah was appalled by their disgusting behaviors, so he sent different prophets to civilize the white race. He sent Moses, who taught them how to cook and clean. He also sent Jesus to help civilize them. The ruling Allah felt that this could be a learning lesson for the black people. He permitted the white race to rule for 6,000 years, ending in 1914. During their reign, they developed Tricknology in order to remain in power. The group proclaims that they used Christianity in order to enslave and trick black people in order to oppress them. As part of the Tricknology, they shipped Africans from the tribe of Shabazz across the Atlantic, making them forget their ancestry and real Islamic roots. The nation claims that in their enslaved state, black people lose their inner morality by engaging in things like fornication and drinking, something that is encouraged by whites. The group also understands that modern subjugation of African Americans is caused by whites' ancient roots. They claim that whites encourage gang culture in order to facilitate the killing of black youths by police officers. They believe that AIDS was invented in order to kill black people, and they flooded African American communities with drugs in order to oppress them. It is also said that only high-level Freemasons hold the true creation story. Prior to this, the ruling Allah actually gifted humanity the Mother Book, which later became the Torah, Gospels, and Quran. In the words of Louis Farrakhan, God say you're the real devil, and you damn sure are. Ain't another devil nowhere else. Ain't no use you get mad with me, white people. You are the devil, the only hellraiser on the earth. I'm not saying that you are responsible, because you are made devil, but I'm not going to mistake in thinking that you can be made better through love. But who the heck is Louis Farrakhan? Who made the Nation of Islam? Why the hell is Yakub a thing? In order to answer all these questions, we have to go back. Wallace Fard Muhammad is the original creator of the Nation of Islam. Virtually nothing is known about him prior to his involvement with the nation. He is claimed to be white, black, Arab, Pakistani, but most likely he was either a white man who had lived in Oregon by the name of Wally Dodd Ford due to the fact that his fingerprints match this guy, or he is from Afghanistan and of Pakistani origin due to the fact that his World War I draft card says he's from there, and he read translations of the Quran in Pakistani and bestowed Pakistani names to his followers. His entire history, in fact, is very complex. He was an aspiring entrepreneur, courted some other dude's wife, and his son might not even be his own. Fard Muhammad really is the whole package, but what we need to know is that the story really begins in 1930 upon his arrival to Detroit, Michigan. Originally, he was selling clothes to black Americans in Detroit. As he was peddling his merch, he told them that their clothes were the same kind that their ancestors wore in Mecca. Fard was offered food on some occasions, but taught them that some foods were bad and others were good. He later came back and taught these people everything he knew in regards to these subjects. He was very well versed in the Bible and the Quran during this time. Wallace regularly used the Bible as part of these teachings. As I said prior, his followers claimed that he was well versed in the biblical tradition, and this is what he initially used to teach his black followers. In fact, the organization kind of grew organically, and the first place of worship was actually Fard Muhammad's house. Now, so right about here stood Wallace Fard Muhammad's apartment building, where he held like different meetings, where he educated 7,000 to 8,000 people daily. He had different shifts for it as well. Now, unfortunately, it seems like the building has been torn down, but regardless, it still serves a significant part of Detroit's history and the broader history of the Nation of Islam. They actually gathered up enough money to buy their own place to rent out. Unfortunately, it looks like it's been destroyed, but in this new building, he met a man named Elijah Poole, who would become very important to our story later. So the group continued to expand, but in 1932, the group became under major scrutiny. A man by the name of Robert Harris, renamed to Robert Kareem by Fard, escorted a man by the name of James Smith into a room with an altar. James believed that he was being inducted into the Nation of Islam, but in front of 12 members of the NOI, Robert bludgeoned him to death with a steel axle as a sacrifice. He immediately confessed, and a manhunt started for Fard Muhammad. At this time, the group was known as the Allah Temple of Islam and was forced to disband. Fard Muhammad was sent for psychiatric evaluation, where he was put in a straitjacket. Although they didn't teach human sacrifice, Fard was expelled from Detroit in 1932, but snuck back in order to continue preaching. He founded different programs for young girls that taught them how to cook and clean, and founded the University of Islam. Elijah Poole reformed the group, and Fard renamed it to the Nation of Islam. The Quran became the primary text of teaching during this time. We're rolling. Alright, so this is the University of Islam. It was known for it was proclaimed that there was a voodoo cult here after some kids dropped out. The Detroit press kind of completely lied about it after the voodoo murder. But this is basically where some of the teachings that Elijah Muhammad passed down, well, they happened here. The school was raided by the police, as I mentioned in that clip, and Elijah Poole was renamed from Elijah Poole to Elijah Muhammad, and he was found guilty of running an unlicensed school. Fard was exiled yet again, but he managed to sneak his way back in, proclaiming that white people will soon die from poison gas. After this, he left Detroit for the last time, where he met the mother of his kids in LA, stating that he was leaving for New Zealand. His last letter to the NOI came from Mexico. His fate is unknown to us, but he was proclaimed to be the last Allah sent by the ruling Allah, and he disappeared on the mothership. During this time, the new leader, Elijah Muhammad, came to rule the Nation of Islam. This is the longest reigning Nation of Islam building in history, basically. There's even a monument for it right there. It's very cool area. And pan up there. All right, ready? Now that building in that clip is where Elijah Muhammad did his initial teachings. They actually named part of the road after him. Now importantly, Elijah had to fight for control over the nation with other leaders, even his own brother. This led him to leave for Chicago, founding the Second Temple, and then Milwaukee, founding the Third Temple, and finally Washington, D.C., forming the Fourth Temple. Elijah was arrested for dodging the draft and encouraging his followers to dodge the draft during World War II. This was a dark time for the group, as their leader was in jail and they only had around 400 members left. But in his time in jail, Elijah was able to gain new members as his wife worked on spreading the group in his absence. Elijah managed to work with people such as Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali in order to expand the group's influence. The group believed in black separatism, as Malcolm X became widely known for. Malcolm X would later come to regret his involvement with the group at all after his pilgrimage to Mecca, where he saw white people praying. This led him to conform to the wider civil rights movement and form his own normal Islamic group. Elijah created the myth of Yakub, or to him, the real history of Yakub, to push his message of black supremacy. Elijah also pushed for black empowerment and black excellence. The nation owned bakeries, farms, nightclubs, grocery stores, printing plants, retail stores. They really did it all during this time. And members like Malcolm X pushed the nation's profile with a newspaper called Muhammad Speaks, reaching more than 600,000 people. Elijah pushed traditional gender roles and dietary advice during this time. His impact on the group and broader civil rights discussion cannot be understated. He is a very, very, very important man, and transformed the group from a small group in Detroit to a nationwide phenomenon with massive cultural influence. However, Elijah Muhammad died in Chicago in 1975. His son took over. Reflecting on the group's beliefs and impact on the world, he chose to move the group to a traditional Sunni Islam and de-radicalize. But one man named Louis Farrakhan was unhappy with this. He was a nightclub singer before he joined the group and worked as the leader of the Harlem Temple. Farrakhan was relocated to Chicago under Wallace's leadership, widely seen as a demotion. Louis Farrakhan proclaimed to be the true predecessor of Elijah. He worked to rebuild the group and push his own message. He reformed the Fruit of Islam, which is a paramilitary organization. Now, I didn't realize this when I was driving by the University of Islam, but my friend pointed it out. The building that's right next to it is actually called the FOI Administration Building. The FOI standing for Fruit of Islam. Basically kind of think like Black Panthers if they were black supremacists instead. He was very displeased with black gang culture and started his Stop the Killing campaign in the 1980s in order to stop gang violence. He was instrumental in getting the Crips and the Bloods to agree to a truce as well. He established the Final Call newsletter, which had more than 500,000 people reading it. Farrakhan also organized the largest black march in American history in Washington, D.C., titled the Million Man March. In 1985, he proclaimed that he was brought up to the mother plane. The mothership is the ship that will pick up all followers during the end times. Aboard the ship, he was given Masonic knowledge and learned about numerology. Farrakhan came to implement elements of Scientology in his speeches as well. He is still puttering around today and giving service to, well, this very day. The group is very complex. There are plenty of different interpretations that you could take away from the group. While the group is responsible for different murders, they are arguably sexist, and they are fundamentally a cult that believes in black supremacy. It's still pushed for a lot of good things for African Americans. During a time where economic and social factors basically forced African Americans into poverty, this group was actually one of the only groups that lifted them up in the world. They own stores, farms. Honestly, the list is so vast it's almost hard to name. They expanded to operating in 46 different cities in order to push their message, and to neglect their importance in broader civil rights discussions is honestly like a big mistake, because a lot of the different players were instrumental in all of that. It is also true that white people have basically enslaved African Americans since the dawn of America, only getting rid of that during Abraham Lincoln's time, and then kept them separate until MLK Jr.'s time. To conclude, the Nation of Islam is a cult that is fundamentally crazy and racist beliefs, but proved to be a cornerstone of the black community pre-civil rights era and ensured black success in America. I personally think that the group should be condemned, but you need to recognize that the group, and more broadly Islam, have actually changed and shaped African American communities for the better. Of course you think the group should be condemned. You're white. Amen. Yakub be with you. Pellin out. I would like to give a major shout out to my friend Jackson for helping me record this video. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I would also appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy the content. Thank you.